Let's go.
Welcome to the show. Today we focus on coaching and mentoring, connecting generations. We are thrilled to introduce our esteemed guest, Dr. Rory Richards. With over 2 decades of experience in education, Dr. Richards has made significant contributions at every level of the educational system. Currently, he serves as an adjunct assistant professor at the City University of New York. In addition to his academic roles, Dr. Richards is the visionary founder and president of Launchpad Education 3.0 Consultancy, where he continues to inspire and innovate. Dr. Richards' impressive academic background includes a Doctor of Education in Higher Education Leadership from St. Peter's University, a Master of Education Administration from Fordham University, a Bachelor of Education from the University of the West Indies, and a Diploma in Education from Michael University College. Join us as we delve into Dr. Richards' insights on coaching, mentoring, and bridging generational gaps in education. Listeners and viewers here and at home, please welcome our host, Dr. Whitty.
Welcome to Dr. Whitty today. How is everybody doing out there? I'm so glad you've taken the time to tune in. We got an awesome guest. Dr. Rory Richards, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Dr. Whitty. How are you doing, man? Thank you for having me on the program.
I'm doing great. This has been one for some time, so I'm glad I finally got you on here so we can have a great discussion. Are you ready?
Absolutely, I am.
All right. So I know we had that awesome introduction. I just want to say, tell us some exciting fact that we didn't learn from that introduction.
Well, one exciting fact is I am from a place where the sun shines ceaselessly, and there is the rich, lush tropical forests juxtaposed with the warm, salty Caribbean Sea, white sandy shores, and you have this scent of roses and tulips wafting through the air continually. And you also get the spicy sense of jerk and you name it. It's all there, not to mention the rhythmic underpinning of the culture. And then finally, we have the speedster there, Usain Bolt. I'm from that place.
Oh, wow.
That place is Jamaica.
Yeah, look, when you said Usain Bolt, I said, oh, Jamaica.
Absolutely.
Right. That sounds awesome. And hopefully one of these days I'll get the vacation there. So that is awesome.
I hope you do.
Great description, by the way. So I'm excited to be here. I got I'll call it my brand colors on. I think I was telling you that I went out with my kids. They took me to the amusement park, and so they bought me this hat. So I'm celebrating. This is my birth month. So I think I'm taking a page out of one of my associates' chapters of his book where he says he celebrates his birthday every day of the month. And so I actually bought this shirt that says, I am a world changer from him. Shout out to Billionaire PA. He's doing great things. And this was one of his shirt designs that I got from him. So I just wanted to shout him out on Dr. Whitty today. But we're going to be talking about an awesome subject, coaching and mentoring. And many people think that both of them are the same thing. So are they?
You're absolutely right. A lot of people think that coaching and mentoring are the same thing. And in some ways, they are similar, but in many ways, they are dissimilar, so to speak. One of the things about coaching versus mentoring, coaching is normally concerned with short-term goals. It's a goal-oriented process where a coach and a client may identify and achieve specific objectives, and they focus on personal and professional development. The mentorship side of it focuses on long-term guidance-based relationships. And it normally includes an individual or involves an individual that is more experienced and would like to share his or her their insights on their particular experiences in order to develop the necessary leadership or personal skills or traits within the mentee. Now, it's important to note, Dr. Whitty, that while they are dissimilar, many of the characteristics of coaching are represented in mentorship. They both involve the development of people. They both involve the development of skills and characteristics. But I think the principal difference is that one is led and the other is sort of a mutual or a mutually directed. So with coaching, the coach normally leads. They might have a structured plan and they want to achieve particular goals. And that's why you see that in sports, for example, football, American football, coaches develop their athletes in track and field. Coaches develop their athletes in soccer. Coaches develop their athletes through a structured plan which have clear goals, clear objectives. And likewise, in the corporate world or education, coaches may be brought in for a specific period of time. You might employ a coach to develop your personnel team within a corporate organization, and this coach will have a certain set of objectives to achieve within 3 months, and they carry the personnel through this program. The mentorship is concerned now with creating that relationship in order to develop this person into, for example, a great leader. A college or university president may see leadership potential in a junior employee or a junior academic and will take that person under their wing and develop these leadership qualities over time by sharing their personal experiences. Those are just some of the differences that you could find in between coaching and mentorship. But I wanted to point out, and this gives a great perspective here, the fact that the first time we hear about mentorship is in Homer's Odyssey, that great epic poem, and Garvey and Stokes 2022 and 2023 point out that this is where King Ithaca leaves his son in care of his confidant, one of his best friends, and his name was Mentor. And that's where the word mentor came from. Now, mentor, the word mentor can be broken down. Men means means to actually explore the mind. It means to think. And that's a Euro-Indo meaning of the prefix or the root men. Then you have the ancient Greek word mentor, which means advisor. So therefore, you could say then that the mentor is an advisor of men or an advisor of the mind. And that's a significant difference between coaching, but yet still it overlaps with coaching because the coach is always developing the mind of the mentor.
All right, thank you. Those are great definitions. I really like how you pointed out the difference in the time frame where you said coaching is normally for short-term goals and mentoring is normally for longer periods of time. But one of the things I wanted to point out was the relational aspect of it, because I think that both coaching and mentoring requires that it requires that relationship, and well, I will say a certain type of relationship, or I will use the term fit, if you will, because one of the things I talk about whenever I'm talking about coaching and mentoring to staff where I work is, you have to have a good fit or it's not going to work. And so one of the things that I talk to people about in terms of mentoring is we normally suggest that someone, not only, as you said, a mentor can seek out a person to mentor, but a mentee can also seek out a person that they believe would be an awesome mentor to them. And one of the things that I tell them is try to come up with at least 3 people that you believe would be a great mentor or coach to you, and the reason why. And then that way, maybe if it doesn't work out with one person, then you have 2 other people to fall back on, because it's important to have that relationship, because if you don't, then the goal may not be met. So I like how you brought that out.
And to your point there,
Go ahead.
Dr. Whitty, to your point there about the relationship, which is key in both mentoring and coaching. One of the things that organizations do, and one of the things that I do in consultancy, in setting up mentorship programs, is ensuring that we have a structured mentorship program. How do we go about creating that program? And one of the key components is having a matching system. And that's where we look at it, because you don't just randomly choose a mentor, or you don't just randomly choose a mentee. You have a matching system where you're able to identify character traits that might be similar, compatible, and will actually benefit the mentee. And it's a two-way street, because both the mentee and the mentor can benefit from the relationship, but the aim is to ensure that the mentee grows. Likewise, you have to ensure that you have a coach who fits in a team, whether it be a sports team or it is a corporate team. That coach has to be able to develop these relationships. So the characteristics have to match, so to speak, and be compatible.
Thank you for clarifying that. The other point I wanted to bring out was typically in coaching, the coach doesn't really take on a advisory role. It's more like, okay, what do you as the coachee want to achieve? And then the coach has to be pretty strong and pretty gifted at asking the right questions, asking those powerful questions that gets that coachee's mind to thinking about how they can reach their goal. And a lot of times people who come to coaching, they come with the idea that the coach is supposed to tell them what to do or how to reach their goal. But the coach's responsibility really is to ask questions to get that person to thinking about the things that they can implement in their process to get to that goal. But coaches are not really supposed to say, hey, this is going to be the goal and this is how you're going to reach it. They're there to say, okay, what is the goal that you would like to reach? And then, ask you a bunch of questions that, like, okay, so what is the time frame that you would like to reach this goal? What are you going to do to reach this goal? What are some things that might be hindering you from moving forward with reaching that goal? And so to stimulate the coachee's thinking so that they can move forward. What do you think about that? Can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
I apologize for that. I do agree with you on a number of things that you said. And what you just pointed out just highlights the fact that mentorship has actually evolved over the centuries. The first time we really hear about coaching is in maybe the 1400s, while we hear about mentorship all the way back to Plato and Socrates, and as you say, Homer's, as I pointed out, Homer's Odyssey. Maya Angelou mentored Oprah Winfrey, and Barack Obama talks about the various mentors that he had. And what we find is that many of the qualities of mentorship have been adapted in coaching. But I think the defining aspect of coaching is that coaching is normally based on a short-term basis. It has a time frame, while mentorship is based on a long-term basis. And really, some people argue, or some researchers argue, that mentorship is lifelong. Once you take on a mentee, that mentee looks to you for guidance, or looks to you as their person that represents them for life. Unlike the coach who may have a 6-month gig, or may have a 3-year gig, or may have a 1-year gig to coach you toward specific goals and objectives. So yeah, I do agree with you on that aspect. But I wanted to point out something else here, Dr. Whitty. One of the things about the coach is that they provide guidance for your development, and they often focus on things like soft skills, active listening, rather than the technical skills. Well, along with the technical skills, while the mentor informally or formally helps you navigate your career, provides guidance for your education or your academics, provide guidance in a particular field, and helps with your choices and your decision making. The mentor actually assists you in developing your worldview and creating that ethical foundation for your decision making, so that you can know, for example, the difference between right and wrong, know how to make correct choices that will impact you positively and impact those around you positively. And this is not to say coaches don't do the same thing. You understand? So you'll find that there are a whole lot of overlaps. And if you drew a Venn diagram, you would have so many points of overlaps between the coach and the mentee, the coach and the mentor.
Thank you. I really, it was something that you said. Yeah, I totally agree with that lifelong aspect of the mentoring, because just before you said it, I was thinking mentorship can be something long-term and lifelong. And just the other day, I was listening to a message by one of my favorite leadership experts, John Maxwell, and he was just talking about how he had a mentor that, like you said, the mentor, this was a lifelong mentor. And he said that one of his prayers were that he would never outgrow his mentor. And then he said, but one day he realized that he had outgrown his mentor. So then he had to get another one, but it was years before that happened. And then he had to get another one. And also it made him a mentor on a different level as well. So I like that. And I also like the point when you were talking about the coaches may be there for a specific time. And it just makes me think of, well, your coach might be here for a season, but may not be there because they don't operate at a certain level to be able to take you to another point in where you are in your life. So then you may have to have a different coach that focuses on a different area of your life. And so you would obviously switch for whatever goal that you set for yourself then. But I think also a point to choosing a mentor or a coach is making sure that you choose somebody who has achieved or accomplished what it is that you're trying to achieve or accomplish. Because there's no sense in having a coach or a mentor to coach or mentor you that haven't been where you're trying to go. How do you feel about that?
Repeat what you just said, the last section of what you just said. So I'm trying to synthesize it.
Oh, I said, what do you think about it? I said, there's no point in choosing a coach or mentor to coach or mentor you toward a goal and they haven't met that goal themselves.
Absolutely. And that's why we pointed out, and I like Dr. Harrigan's question, would you say a coach tells you how while a mentor shows you how? Both the mentor and the coach have to have experience in what they are doing and what they are trying to guide you toward. The coach has to have expertise in the particular areas that you have goals and objectives for. The mentor has to have those life experiences in order to guide you toward where you want. And Dr. Harrigan asks a very great question. Does the coach tell and the mentor show? Well, the coach creates that framework for you to be able to develop the necessary skills to meet the goal, the particular goal. And I'll take you to the sports team. If you look at a good sports team, that sports team has a good coach that understands how to take the athlete from one level of complexity to the next level of complexity by creating the structural framework for that athlete to develop. That means he's able to provide examples and able to tell them and show them how to achieve those goals. The mentor, on the other hand, a mentorship program will have a framework and a structure, but the mentor uses his life experiences as that example. So again, I go to, for example, a CEO, or example yourself, Dr. Whitty. You know, if you're mentoring someone to walk in your footsteps, you're going to use these particular experiences that you have. How do you communicate on the podcast? Or how do you create your marketing strategy for your new business? Or how do you lead people? Your life experiences are what you actually use today to help that person grow into their full potential.
All right, all right. I think in reference to the comment, who was it? Dr. Harrigan.
Yes.
I would say that a coach provides that framework, as you said. I would also say the coach provides the environment, but I think the coach's ultimate responsibility is not to tell the person what to do or how to do it, but it's like I said before. I would say that the coach's responsibility is to ask them, challenge them, and because the person has to be willing and empowered enough to do it on their own. So as a coach, I'll use myself for an example. As a coach, I don't tell people what to do. I ask them what their goal is, and then I ask them questions about things that they may not have even thought about. I will ask them questions, like I said, what is your goal? What is the time frame you want to reach your goal? How do you intend to reach that goal? And then I hold them accountable to what they say to me. Whereas if somebody say, well, my goal is to get a college degree. Okay, well, that's a great goal. How long do you think that should take you? Well, 4 years. So what are you going to do to reach that goal? And they may tell me, well, I'm gonna pick a college. well, how soon are you going to pick a college? One day, well, I'm going to pick a college this month. Well, give me an exact date. Give me an exact time. So those are the things that I do as a coach is I ask those questions to make sure that they're thinking, and then I hold them accountable to the answers that they give me. And then, so I don't tell them what to do, but I challenge them to think about how they're going to reach that goal. And then I hold them accountable because ultimately they are the ones that's setting the goal. And so, I often tell them, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to help you get to where you're trying to go. And I'm going to ask you some questions. And then, from time to time, yes, I have to take off my coach hat and put on my mentoring or advising hat for just a quick second. But I got to go right back to the coach because all those things are different. And so you have to be careful because coaching, mentoring, advising, all of that stuff, consultancy, all of those are different. But like you said, they all share some of the same dynamics, if you will. So it's a really challenging thing, but it's very awesome as well. What do you say to how you mentioned it earlier, how things have changed as far as different generations? And one of the things that I often point out as well is that generations expect different things. So discuss the various generations, including differences in expectations of each.
Yeah, that's a great question, Dr. Whitty, and it's a great point of conversation today because historically we have had many intergenerational conflicts and disconnects where generations can't seem to connect or can't seem to see eye to eye or work together. And many people claim to be experts on the varied generations and have different points of view. But I like to go to sources, and I looked at in my previous research and even presently, one of the sources that came up was Purdue University, and they looked at I guess 5 different generations, the traditionalists who would be some people call them the silent generation from 1925 to 1945, the baby boomers, 1946 to 1964, Generation X, they were born 65, 1980, millennials, born 1981 to 2000, and Gen Z, 2001 to 2020. These are some of the generations that we look at. And if you look at the traditionalists who were born between 1925 and 1945, they say that these people are dependable, they're straightforward, they're tactful, and they're loyal. And their worldview was shaped by the Great Depression, World War II, radio and movies. And they're motivated by respect, recognition, providing long-term value to companies, etc. And they have a particular communication style. They like personal touch, handwritten notes instead of emails. They don't like that. Their worldview normally is obedience over individualism, age equals seniority, and advancing through the hierarchy. Baby boomers are optimistic, and again, baby boomers were born in 1946 to 1964. They're optimistic, they're competitive, they're workaholics, team oriented, shaped by the Vietnam War, Watergate, etc., motivated by company loyalty, teamwork, duty. They communicate in whatever way is most efficient, including phone calls and face-to-face. And their worldview, achievement comes by after paying one's dues. Then you have Generation X, who were born 1965 to 1980. And they are flexible, informal. They tend to be skeptical, and also very independent. I tend to be a very independent person, and I would think I'm a Generation X. I'm dating myself now, Dr. Whitty. And their worldview, they favor diversity. They're quick to move on their employer. If their employer fails to meet their needs, they're resistant to change at work if it affects their personal lives. They communicate in whatever style is necessary, including face to face, and they're motivated by things like diversity, work-life balance, their personality and personal interest rather than the company interest. And you're seeing the contrast between the traditionalists, the baby boomers, and Generation X. But if you look now at millennials were born in 1981 to 2000. They're very competitive, very civic minded, open minded, and they are achievement oriented. Totally different communication styles, text and email, and of course, social media. Their worldviews that they seek challenges, growth, development, fun work life, and work life and home life, a personal life, a balance. They leave an organization if they don't like the change. They're motivated by responsibility. And then you have Gen Z, 2001 to 2020. These guys are global. They're entrepreneurial. They're progressive. But the research shows that they might be less focused. And I'm not trying to throw the stones at anybody now, and their worldview is they self-identify as digital device addicts. And these guys were born in the digital age. So they would be classified as digital natives, unlike Generation X, who would not be digital natives. They would be classified. I'm drawing a blank here. Forgive me. But they would be classified. Yes, they would be classified as digital immigrants. And so communication styles are very, very different here. And if you look at how this would affect the mentorship and the coaching process, you realize that communication is going to be key in this. But we'll get into that a little later.
All right. Yeah, the different generations are definitely looking for different things, and that's one of the things that I often point out in my own organization is because we get a lot of baby boomers that complain about the newer generations and have trouble working with them, and vice versa, because the communication is, it's always this us versus them mentality instead of let's come together and be a team. So one of my challenges is getting the staff to recognize what each generation looks for, and then with that knowledge, you use that and focus your communication efforts in that direction to the best that you can, to work better with that particular generation. So like you said, like for instance, the millennials, and I think we all value our time, but like Gen Z and a lot of what they value is their time off. They value autonomy, right? And so a lot of them, like when I grew up, it was like, okay, I'm not going to be off for my weekend. Okay, I'm okay. I'm going to do what I have to do. But a lot of employees today, if they can't have their weekend off, or if they can't have autonomy, or if they can't be on social media or have their devices with them while they're at work, they are ready to leave, and some will leave like instantaneously. So And that's something that maybe you and I may not be able to relate to, but that's the reality that we're facing today.
And you're absolutely right, Dr. Whitty. You know, communication styles are different, expectations are different, particularly with Gen Z. Gen Z prefer to work with millennials, you know, and they prefer their work environment to be inclusive of or be digitally oriented. Remember, I said they are actually digital natives. They were born with digital devices. And so a cell phone for a Gen Z is like their right or left arm. Telling them to put down their cell phone is basically telling them to remove their left or right arm. And one of the goals of the coach is to help those different generations understand the intercommunication abilities that are needed to ensure that the workplace can survive and to ensure that there are smooth operations and progress within various projects within the workplace. I'll give you an example. You just pointed out one of the things about Generation X is that they might not, or early baby boomers might not necessarily want to communicate by text. But how does the coach help the baby boomers to understand the necessity of communicating in a technologically advanced world by text? How do we help them to understand the need for instantaneous communication that often face to face communication cannot provide? And that's one of the tasks that the coach has. And they have to create this structure and this framework that guides and coaches them into seeing the value of this type of communication. Conversely, Dr. Whitty, the coach has to be able to help Gen Z accept the limitations and be willing to guide those older generations into the utilization of new types of communication, new types of technology, and be willing to help them understand that digital devices or the digital landscape is not a gimmick. It's actually value added. I had this experience where we were working on this strategic plan, and um, you know, I was offering to give digital assistance with development of the strategic plan, using things like MindTap and helping them to be able to visualize ideas really quickly through mind maps and things like that on screen. And the approach to it, because this was also a Gen X, the approach was that it was more of a gimmick than value added, which is a sad approach, because what you do, you deny organizational growth in the 21st century when you deny access to the digital landscape and all of the value that it can bring to growth. So you see where the coach has to be able to guide these different generations to be able to have that relationship and develop those intercommunicational values that are necessary for organizational growth in the 21st century.
Exactly, exactly. I'm going to go to this. Uh, Give us some practical advice on how mentors can tailor their approach to meet the unique needs of younger generations. I think you're on mute.
Great question. And, you know, I thought about that a little bit. And one of the things that strikes me is that a mentor is normally older and more experienced. You would agree with that, right? You would agree with that, right, Dr. Whitty?
Yes, yes.
No, but that's normal, right? Here's the problem with making that the norm. An older mentor is oftentimes not necessarily fully conversant with the needs of the 21st century mentee. And this is where within organizations, what is called reversed mentorship comes into play. Now, here's what the research shows. The research shows that when you employ, well, before we talk about the research, let me explain to you what reverse mentorship is. This is when an older or even more experienced company executive or employee is mentored by a younger employee. So, for example, a Gen X being mentored by a Gen Z. But you say to yourself, how is that possible? The Gen X has a wider world experience far wider world experience than the Gen Z. Well, Gen Z understands how to communicate with social media. Gen Z understands how to connect social media within the office space. Gen Z understands the utilization of technology. Gen Z understands the communication styles of today. Gen Z understands the language, the vocabulary, the vernacular of today. And Gen Z can coach you into utilizing and incorporating these things into your worldview and into your schema, thereby helping you as a mature or senior executive to bring 21st century value to your organization. And that's reverse mentorship. I'll give you a quick experience. In my doctoral studies, when I was doing my doctorate, I had to get a younger coach to help me, a younger mentor to help me as one of my readers. Because in order to make my topic as relevant as possible, not only theoretically, but linguistically and with regards to the knowledge base, I had to have this kind of an input. And I'm telling you, he was one of the best mentors I had. And this was a millennial. He was knowledgeable. He was patient. He was intentional. And he guided me in the process. So reverse mentorship is key to ensuring that you have that intergenerational knowledge base being passed on, whether it is passed down from the older generation or passed up by the younger generation. What do you think about that?
While you were talking, all I was thinking about was the fact that many times when these new technologies are introduced, older persons, and that could be any age, older persons typically are intimidated, don't want to be bothered, or feel like something is being put in place to replace them. I'll use the example AI. Now they've come out with AI, and so AI is this exciting new technology that you can use that really does in fact present a lot of benefits, but it also creates a lot of challenges, particularly I think for people in the education space. And so everybody's got to figure out what to do with this AI and how to make it usable and legal. But the other thing is you have people who think, oh, AI is here to replace me, but AI is just another level of technology. It's just like any other technology. It's not here to replace you. It's here to be used by you to go to the next level. And so it's not here to replace us, but if we don't learn how to work with technology, we don't learn how to work and use AI, that's where replacement comes in. Because as we go forward, if we don't begin to utilize these different things that are coming about, we get left behind because we don't know how to use it. It's just like way back in the day when they came out with computers. Well, the first computer was the human being, but if they didn't learn how to operate these computers, these machines, that's where the replacement came in. You got replaced by somebody who knew how to operate the machine. So it's the same thing with AI. If we don't learn how to use it that to where it benefits our employer and even us, then that's where replacement come in. So that's what I was thinking about as you were just giving us the information that you gave.
And that's where reverse mentorship comes in, because and you're absolutely right. There are so many people who are afraid of AI, but AI has so many benefits. AI helps you advance your abilities and improve your abilities in ways that you could not imagine, in such in a manner that is very quick, um, very rigorous, and thorough. For example, if you do a piece of writing and you run it through an artificial intelligence, generative AI, that AI can point out your grammatical errors very, very quickly, when normally you would have to spend a couple of hours maybe on a chapter to review a chapter. Now, some people might say, wait a minute, that's like cheating. No, it's not. You've done the preliminary work. It's not replacing you. You've done the preliminary work. And now, just as how you use spell check on your Microsoft Office or your Google Doc, you're using generative AI to not only check your work, but also help you to write more succinctly. Now, with regards to ensuring that each generation is able to learn to use this technology, and this is where it becomes critical now, Dr. Whitty, because if I am not a digital native, if I'm what is called a digital immigrant, I was not born with digital technology, I had to learn it. It becomes each new iteration of technology makes it that much harder for me to cope with the workspace and to adapt to the new changes. And this is where the younger generation is able to reverse mentor that older generation by helping them to incorporate and adapt to the changes that are rapidly taking place every day, including generative AI. Let me give you a quick example. One of the things that we do in one of my classes, I teach a technical writing class. And one of the things that we do is come up with an a use of AI in the class policy. So I could just simply create a policy, but what we do is professor, older generation, to students, younger generation, we together come up with a policy of AI use that is workable for the class. And what that allows the students to do and gives the professor an advantage is teach the professor about everything that they are using AI to do. And so the professor is now able to structure his class so that they can get the best benefit from the use of AI while advancing their personal writing skills to the level where they don't necessarily have to use AI, you know. Also, it allows me to give them an understanding of the ethical underpinnings that should guide their writing or should guide their academic lives, and also the ethical future responsibility that they will have in the use of AI.
Exactly. Great stuff. Before we go to a commercial, I'm going to ask you one more question.
Sure.
Let's see. So many of them I want to ask you. We may not get to them all, but okay. So discuss some challenges, some common challenges faced when connecting different age groups, and offer some actionable solutions to overcome those barriers.
And we discussed that. That's a great question, because we discussed a lot of it today. And I like what Dr. Harrigan said: the speed of technological change today increases the need for reverse mentorship. Absolutely. If you're not a digital native, you will not be able to advance as quickly as the native. But we've been talking about some of the challenges that we face between the generations, and communicating between the generations, and coaching and mentoring different generations. And I think one of the biggest challenge is approaching mentorship from a place of humility. And what do I mean by that? I mean that you approach it with the certain knowledge that I'm so very sorry about that.
That's okay.
That even though you have life experiences that might span decades and might be longer than the person whom you're mentoring has been alive, you still do not know everything. And that mentorship then becomes not a one-sided relationship, but a two-sided relationship, where you are able to learn from the mentee and the mentee learns from you. So you have that intersection that helps to create a relationship. But approaching it from a point of humility when you have the vast experience can be very, very challenging. The other side of this, Dr. Whitty, is that even though the mentor, an older mentor, might approach from a point of humility, there is often resistance from the mentee, because the style of communication might be different from that of the mentor. And the mentor might be resistant to adapting these new styles of communication. For example, texting. Most Gen X don't want you to text them. Many Gen X, at least, not most. They want a phone call. Give me a phone call so I can hear your voice and speak to you. But listen, when we're pressed for time, a quick text can succinctly provide information, well-needed information, particularly in emergencies and where it is impossible to communicate verbally. What Gen Z and millennials are saying: communication does not have to stop because we are unable to see each other personally. And those are some of the challenges. Unfortunately, many people prefer to communicate by phone, and that creates a challenge in the whole process. Of course, there are lots more challenges that we could talk about, but I fear that our time is about to expire.
Yeah, as you were talking, the only thing I was thinking about was fit, and that's what it boils down to, fit. And that's one of the things that, as a coach and a mentor, you have to think about anytime you want to coach or mentor, or you're asked to coach or mentor. You have to think about fit, because, as you said, some people aren't willing to be flexible. They're not flexible. I mean, they're not willing to be amicable. Amicable. So it's like you have to make sure that whoever it is that you are in that coaching or mentoring relationship with, that it works, that it's the proper fit. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So that's what I was thinking about as you were talking
Absolutely.
as
And
well.
that's why structuring your mentorship program is so very important, Dr. Whitty. Not just
Yes.
arbitrarily approaching it, structuring your mentorship program so you have a selection process. So your mentors have the characteristics listed, and the mentees have their characteristics listed, and you see whether or not they have a good fit. And this works especially in student advisement.
Exactly. All right, well, we're going to take a break. I hope those of you that are out there listening and viewing the program, that you're taking some of these nuggets that we're talking about today on this topic. We're going to go to a short commercial break, but what we want to do also is we're going to flash the link to the show on the screen. And if you want to be invited backstage to ask myself or Dr. Richards or both of us a question about the topic tonight, or make a comment about what you are gleaning from this conversation, we invite you to put that link in your browser so that, click on that link or either put it in your browser so that you can pop up and then we can see you. And we'll bring you up on stage and have a little chat with you before we eventually let you go. So thank you for tuning in, by the way. We'll be right back.
Presented by Dr. Timothy Felton and Teron Coleman, Black Boys Matter explore the vital role of parental presence in raising Black sons. As Black boys navigate persistent obstacles and challenges, fostering authentic, trusting, and nurturing relationships through positive engagement becomes crucial. Each chapter of this profound manuscript leaves readers with greater understanding and deliberate techniques for addressing the issues these young men face. Get your copy wherever books are sold. Dr. Candicia Randolph's book, The Black American Church, Leadership Dispensation and Challenges, critically examines leadership within the Black church, drawing from historical and anthropological perspectives. It identifies challenges faced by this vital institution in the Black American community and proposes practical solutions. The church's impact on Black culture and leadership is explored, emphasizing its historical context and influence over nearly 5 centuries. Through research and data, the manuscript aims to enhance the church's effectiveness and cultural relevance. Get your copy where books are sold today. Unlock a happier, more fulfilling life with planned maturity for teens. Are your teens struggling with low self-esteem, feeling lost, or seeking practical advice to navigate their teenage years? Then look no further. Planned Maturity for Teens is more than just another self-help book. It's a comprehensive roadmap to a brighter future. This book offers insightful guidance and tools teenagers need to develop a positive mindset. Its practical advice and clear strategies helps teenagers build self-confidence and overcome adolescent challenges. The author draws on years of experience working with young people to provide real-life lessons and relatable and actionable advice. From reading this book, your teen will gain a healthier self-image and techniques to cultivate and maintain self-esteem. They'll receive guidance on discovering and aligning with their values, and also envision a pathway to success, a clear and concise roadmap to personal growth and fulfillment. The author Marquise Trent brings his extensive experience to the table, offering teens the support they need to thrive. Planned Maturity for Teens is the ultimate guide to helping your teen build a happier, more confident, and successful life. Get your copy today and help your teen embark on a journey to planned maturity.
All right. We are back. Thank you for tuning in. There you see the link. It's also dropped in the YouTube chat. If you are enjoying this show, if you have a question or comment, go ahead and utilize that link. We want you to come up and talk to us about what you're gleaning from the show or ask us a relevant question about coaching and mentoring. Doctor. So talk to us about how the landscape of coaching and mentoring have evolved over the years and what future trends might look like.
It's a great question. Now, you know, if you look at mentorship, at the beginning of our conversation, we pointed out where we first heard about mentorship. And much of the structure of mentorship has become included in coaching, particularly the development of relationships. You have coaches that are now developing long-term relationships with those whom they coach. Likewise, I think the whole idea of mentors focusing on particular skills development within their mentorship program, setting those goals and a particular structure has been a great point of evolution for mentorship. Previously and typically, the mentorship cycle was not necessarily a structured one. It was based mainly on that person's experience and that person just guiding and sh- giving sharing those experiences with the mentee and telling them how they avoided traps and pitfalls in life. But now you have more structured mentorship programs where you actually first define your goals for mentorship, and you structure it where you follow through on those goals. Programs where you actually appoint trained mentors rather than just some random person with experience. And there are many other points of evolution in mentorship and coaching.
All right, all right. So share with us one lesson that you have learned from a particular coaching or mentoring relationship.
Absolutely.
And in particular, if it was somebody from a different generation than your own.
Absolutely. Recently, I mentored a young man who had sort of lost his way, where he had completed high school maybe 4 years ago. And between then and now had dropped out of two colleges and was not doing anything. He was neither in college or gainfully employed, nor pursuing any kind of personal development. Thankfully, he enrolled in the institution that I am a professor at right now for this semester, and he's going to be completing his associate degree, and that allows me to actually continue that relationship and develop that structured mentorship program. But what I learned from that experience, Dr. Whitty, is that, and this is a Gen Z person, is that oftentimes the mentee does not necessarily experience the sense of urgency that you might experience with an issue. You see, your life experience informs how you view things. The mentee's life experiences are not the same, and they are not as lengthy as yours. And so they might not necessarily have the same sense of urgency about the same things. However, I learned most clearly, and I've learned this over my over 2 decades of experience as an educator, but it came home to me most recently. Once you articulate Once you develop that relationship and you articulate clearly the sense of urgency and allow it to be synthesized or saturate the mind of the mentee, they'll get it.
Yeah, that's it. Now, as you were talking, it just made me think of, I was trying to think of my own personal example. And what I was going to say was, if there was anything that I could say uh, that I learned and still learning is, you know, you as a coach or a mentor have to let go of the outcome. It's because you want them to achieve it. You can see them achieving it. And like you said, they may not have the same urgency. They might not even seem as excited about it as you are. But one of the things that I've learned is that uh, you are being listened to, you are being heard. And what you have to do is you just have to remember what you are there for, but you have to let go of the outcome, because the outcome belongs to the mentee or the coachee. The outcome belongs to them. What you're there to help get them to that outcome, but you yourself have to let it go, because you're not the one that's supposed to be achieving it. You're being used as a tool for somebody else to achieve their goal. And so, as you were talking, that's what came out to me, was let go of the outcome. And one more comment about reverse mentorship. As you was talking about that, it just made me think about when you think of all this technology and excuse me, you think of the simplest thing, let's say a cell phone, right? And you have older persons, and some of them have a real hard time with operating mobile devices, and so you're becoming a mentor to them, to show them how to utilize this technology. And you have to be patient, and sometimes you have to actually show them, as in the mentor, you have to take the phone and you have to show them how to do different things. But a lot of times what we do is we just hand them a phone and say, well, this is how you do it, this is how you do it, and it doesn't click. And so you have to be patient, like you was talking about earlier. Even though we know something, we have to approach it with a sense of humility, that we don't know everything, but what we do know, we're sharing it, and we have to share it as if the person does not know, because maybe they don't. And we have to have patience for them to learn whatever the objective is for them to learn. And so that's what I thought about when you were talking about reverse mentorship. I'm sure, like you said, we could go into a whole myriad of comments on that, but that's something that just go ahead.
Dr. Whitty, to your point that you just made, just building on the point that you just made, one of the things I've also learned is that, and I'm zeroing in on a particular generation now, Gen Z is very patient and very willing to pass on their knowledge. They're very patient with passing on their knowledge to the older generation. If the older generation acknowledges that they are knowledgeable in these areas. One of the things about us, and this goes back to the question of challenges about us, is that we don't want to acknowledge the knowledge of the younger generation. We don't want to acknowledge that, they might know a little bit more than us about something. But once you acknowledge that, Gen Z, they are so willing to assist you to upskill in the various areas that you need to be upskilled in. It's amazing. I've seen it in action. I've experienced it. In fact, I experience it most days in the class. I'm always learning of some new app or something that helps me enhance the work that I'm doing with my students. I learn this from the students.
Exactly. I agree. You got to be humble. You got to be willing to say, I don't know. It's like you said, if I don't know something, and there's a piece of technology that I need to know, I learn it. I call people, I ask them. I had to say, hey, I don't know how to do a podcast. Hey, can somebody tell me how to do this thing? And so, hey, you got to be humble, and you be surprised at what you can learn, as you said, from Gen Z, Gen X, and what is it, Generation Alpha? It's so
Generation
many.
Alpha now, yeah.
Every time you look, there's a new generation, but there's always something new to learn. So I've got one more question that then we're going to close out. You, Dr. Richards, how can leaders and organizations foster a culture of intergenerational coaching and mentoring? And what advice would you give to someone new to coaching and mentoring across generations?
You know, first we have to agree that there are actually benefits to mentoring and coaching. A lot of people don't believe that there are necessarily any benefits. You say to people that, hey, let's start a mentorship program. Let's develop a structured mentorship program within the organization so that we can engender organizational longevity. We can ensure that we have repositories of information being passed on. We can ensure that leadership skills are developed. But the fact is, mentorship build relationships, Dr. Whitty, between people of different generations and different backgrounds. When you put in place a structured mentorship program, and notice I keep emphasizing structured mentorship, it's good to have informal mentorship, and you need to encourage employees and leaders to have informal mentorships. Relationship, but you also should structure that mentorship program within your organizations so that you can intentionally develop and create those communication lines between the different generations where they begin to value each other based on the knowledge that they are able to share with each other. The thing is, Dr. Whitty, when I understand that I can learn a whole lot from you, then I'm going to value a relationship with you. But I cannot understand that I'm going to learn a lot from you unless those lines of communications are opened. And this is where the leadership comes into play. They have to be very intentional in opening these lines of communications. So they can't be arbitrary about a mentorship or a coaching program. Make sense?
Makes sense. Definitely. Definitely makes sense. Let me see. I think I have yeah, we have a comment. They are willing to show and help the older generation, but I'm not sure what that person's trying to say right there, but something.
They don't have the
They
patience.
don't have the patience at the rate the older person grasps. Okay. I agree with that. I think that's Peyton Kelly. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do agree with that. I've seen that. Yeah, I've definitely seen that. And so I think that that goes to what we were saying, patience and humility.
Patience.
You've gotta be able to, whatever you know, you have to be able to slow it down, and you have to be able to do it at the pace of the learner. Because if you don't, they're not going to grasp. It's just like any other thing that you're trying to teach a person. You have to do it and be creative and strategic enough that you can do it to where that person can grasp whatever it is that you're trying to get them to pick up. So I agree. Thank you for that comment. Dr. Richards, this is a topic that we could talk about a long time. But unfortunately, we don't have a long time. So, what are your final comments to someone that either a person seeking coaching or mentoring? Well, yeah, we'll go with that. For a person that's seeking to be coached or mentored, what would be your final comments to that person?
Absolutely. With regards to coaching, I believe that you need to be able to identify the areas that you think you need coaching in. You know, if you, for example, if you are an office assistant and you need coaching in the area how to office you can be an office assistant. If you are a chief of staff and you need coaching in the area of how to really organize that staff so that they are most effective in carrying out company responsibilities, I think you need to identify those areas, and then you need to be able to identify a coach, or try to identify a coach who might be able to meet those needs. And don't be afraid to put up your hand and say, hey, can you help me? Now, from the mentorship point of view, it's always good to know the arc of your career. Where do you want to be in the next 10, 15 years? And that's one of the questions that many interviewers ask. Where do you see yourself? And you always wonder, why do they ask these things in the interview? Well, the interview is asking maybe because you're a potential employee and they want to be able to match you with the right person who can help you help to guide you to achieve those goals. So if you can determine where you want to be within the next 15 to 20 years, set those long-term goals, and then seek out a mentor, a person who has experience, practical experience and knowledge in that area, and in humility, ask that person to be your mentor. That's something I would really encourage. And finally, I would encourage everyone, at some point you're going to need some kind of mentorship. Position yourself to be mentored and allow yourself to grow from the wealth of knowledge that a mentor can provide, whether the mentor is old or the mentor is young. Position yourself to receive that knowledge and utilize that knowledge.
Thank you, thank you. And what I would say is, for a lot of people tie in a lot of different things to mean one specific thing, and I would just like to say that coaching is coaching, mentoring is mentoring. Remember, coaching and mentoring is not therapy. Coaching and mentoring is growth work. Therapy is healing work. So coaching and mentoring is, I want to go forward. We might talk about some things that are in the past, but it's never to stay there. It's just to gather information and then quickly move forward. But there are reasons for both. So just so we can make sure we clarify what coaching and mentoring is, I think we did a great job. Thank you, Dr. Richards. Please let those out there know where they can find you outside of DrWhitty today.
Absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find my LinkedIn page, and you can also find my consultancy page on LinkedIn. It's Launchpad Education 3.0 Consultancy LLC. And you can also email me at my email, which is, we'll post in the chat, Rory Richards at Launchpad education.org.
All right. Thank you for being a guest on DrWhitty today. Those of you out there, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Well, it's not Twitter anymore, X, and also TikTok. I think I mentioned them all. Also YouTube. So please go and check out other episodes and future episodes. We're going to be coming back on the 16th of September with Dr. Nicole Vick. We're going to be talking about lifting as we climb. Also, if you want to support the DrWhitty Today show, scan that QR code that's in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. This is just one of the great products you might find there. It is a note-taking cube. As you can see, this is what it looks like. You can sit it on your desk, sit it in your room. If you want to support us, like I said, scan that QR code, go check out the products, and we would be grateful. This has been an awesome episode. Don't make this the last time that you've been on the platform, Dr. Richards. We got some more talking to do on some other subjects. So I just thank you for taking your time out to join us. And
Absolutely.
Thank you. And for those of you that are out there listening and viewing, we hope that you have gleaned some great nuggets from this episode, and we hope that you tune in to the next Dr. Whitty Today show. So long. We'll see you on the next episode.
I dare say.
Thank you for joining us on Dr. Whitty Today. We appreciate your time, and your viewership is the heartbeat of our show. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and most importantly, subscribe. Your support keeps us going, and we can't wait to have you back. So hit the notification bell to find out each time we air live. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, stay motivated, and stay tuned.